Welcome back, everybody. My name is luis-lacau, and this is Man Bites Retro. And what we do here, every week there's a new voice that brings forward their favorite person in film history, and we present that voice to you. So please stay tuned for the show. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Man Bites Media Retro. This week, we are actually doing an amazing movie that was it's probably one of the best South Korean films. One of the best. We'll probably go into some of the other ones in later episodes of this show. But of course, I'm talking about OldBoy. And this was actually brought to us by an amazing artist himself. And I'm gonna let him go and introduce himself completely, and also give you guys a little bit of insight on him.
Okay. Well, I'm robert-a-lindsay. You might have seen me on Face Off season 10. I do makeup effects, and I dabble as well in multimedia, and I have a YouTube channel. And my Instagram, if you want to check it out, it's robert-lindsay-fx.
Awesome. And we'll also link the YouTube channel, the Instagram, and everything on the show notes on the podcast. So you're able to immediately just link over to Robert's page and able to see all the work that he's done, because it's pretty badass, let me tell you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, you do a great job, and I like bringing out certain artists because obviously we got a little bit more insight on certain movies, and we're able to see a lot more stuff that happens in movies and appreciate the art that goes into movies. And especially movies like OldBoy, this is one of those that you start really going into the minutia details, and you start seeing a lot of these little fine-tuned details, like the special effects and the makeup design that they did for this movie is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, it is.
So, if you don't know, OldBoy is basically a 2003 South Korean neo-noir action thriller, I guess you could kind of call it that. It's directed by Park Chan-wook. If I'm butchering that name, I'm so sorry.
Don't feel bad. I have the same issue.
And the composer, which I'm probably going to butcher even worse, is Cho Young-wook. And the composer, the reason I'm highlighting the composer in this movie in particular is because the soundtrack on this film is something that's just phenomenal. I have the soundtrack on my phone, and it's one of those things every once in a while I listen to just because it's that good.
Yeah, it's an amazing soundtrack. I agree.
Yeah, and the whole story is basically this guy, Udasu, is basically imprisoned in a hotel, or what looks like a hotel, for 15 years. And he's literally just imprisoned in this thing, fed, bathed, everything. Everything is done for him, but he doesn't know why he's imprisoned in this thing. He doesn't know why he got stuck in this thing. And then suddenly they let him out, and he goes on this rampage trying to figure out what the hell, why the hell, and where he got stuck, and why he got stuck into this predicament. And it's super interesting how this movie unfolds, because it turns from an imprisonment film into a complete awesome deranged revenge film. And
I love revenge films, by the way.
Right? They're the best ones. We actually just did a review last week on Mandy, which I don't know if you've seen that one, the latest Nicolas Cage movie.
No.
Oh, it's so good. It's something you got to definitely check out, especially if you like revenge movies.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, Robert, what do you think of this movie? What was your favorite scene in this movie, and why did you appreciate this movie so much?
Well, it is so beautifully filmed, and with the music, it's just a beautiful made film, and it has a lot of violence, and it's a twisted revenge flick. It's a masterpiece, pretty much, in my opinion. And it might be interesting to look as well at the remake from Spike Lee and kind of maybe compare the differences between those two films. might be fun to analyze that a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, I found out in my research that there's actually another remake. It's an Indian film, so it came out of Bollywood, and
Oh
called
shit!
Zinda.
Are
And
they
it came out in
dancing and singing
2006.
and then?
Right? I can only imagine that. Imagine if there's some singing coming out in this. I'm just like, I'm so intrigued by this, and I didn't get a chance to look up any clips or anything.
Oh,
But
I have to see that too. Yeah.
right, I got to see where that goes. But yeah, what do you think is one of the biggest comparisons between the remake, the American remake, and the classic, the original?
Well, I just rewatched because I hadn't before we were talking. I hadn't seen the remake because I was thinking it's probably crap anyway. Most remakes are not that good, even though Spike Lee is a pretty good filmmaker. But so having just watched both of them freshly recently for my research, there's some distinct differences. First of all, I think the Spike Lee is a bit longer, and it doesn't implement the voiceover which the original does, which I always like especially for example in Blade Runner there's this voiceover which I kind of like voiceovers in films, even though the director's cut of Blade Runner they left that out. But I actually enjoyed it with the voiceover, the narrator voice telling the story.
I agree.
And in that way they can shorten the film because he explains a lot in his when he narrates it. So that's why it can be shorter than what Spike Lee has done. Another difference is Spike Lee imprisons him for 20 years, so he adds 5 more years. It seems a bit like he wanted to top it, make everything a bit more extreme. Yeah.
But there's nothing more extreme than that hammer fight sequence that the original has. And Spike Lee tried to imitate it, but it just feels like a carbon copy, cheap imitation of it. And as good as it looks, it doesn't look as good as the original. There's no way.
Another thing, the protagonist, the actor, Mr. Brolin, I think he's kind of portrayed as a super asshole to a point where it's almost cartoonish. They show him a bit more before the original starts when he is imprisoned already, and they don't show much. I think there's a little clip where he's in a police station, and then it goes straight to the prison scene. But with the remake, they tell a bit of his life story, and there's a few scenes of him making business deals, and he is just such an asshole. Yeah. I thought it was a bit too much. I mean, to a point where it's kind of stupid. Like he's messing up his business deal by just acting like a dick. Yeah. It was a bit over the top for me. I thought it was a bit almost cartoonish in a way, you know.
Well, that's what Spike Lee does. All his characters are over the top and very, like you said, very cartoonish. And that's one of his character traits in his movies is that he creates characters that are over the top. And I personally don't like a lot of those Spike Lee movies. I'm in the silent minority in that one. And I don't know, his movies are a little bit over the top a lot of times. And like you said, it's because of that. I don't appreciate his movies because of that. And the classic, it creates the character with the voiceover, like you said. And then right in that scene where that little montage sequence of him being in prison for all those years, you create the character without having to say a line of dialogue, without having to do anything on the camera other than showing him living in this cell.
Yeah.
But is able to portray it by the emotions that he puts on. And then the structure of the film just goes so smoothly. And the flashback sequences have an actual motive, which the Spike Lee one, it does this weird thing where it kind of cuts out one of the main points of the Korean film.
Yeah. By the way, any listeners right now who haven't seen both films, we might put in some spoilers here telling the story, you know. So you might not want to listen to this podcast before watching both films. So there's a little heads up for people who don't want to have spoilers.
Yeah, definitely. One of the biggest differences is the main revenge aspect of it. Why this man was actually imprisoned all these years, and that was one of the most twisted, crazy sequences that
Yeah,
I've ever seen. And when that reveal happens, you're just like, holy shit.
yeah. And another thing, it seemed like Spike Lee wanted to make it even more over the top and more nasty, which he succeeds, by the way. But in the original, it's an incestuous relationship between brother and sister, and Spike Lee just puts the whole family in there. So it's like,
Yeah.
uh, I think I think the original is more elegant in a way, and as well more creative with those dream sequences, and when he is like going crazy, and with those scenes with the ants and stuff. So I think it's way more creative than the remake.
And not only that, I mean, like there's certain scenes that just stand out and they will stick with you forever. That scene where he's eating the octopus.
Oh, the octopus,
Oh my god. Like there's a famous quote that the director was saying once he was interviewed. He was like, "Did you actually make your actor eat an octopus, a live octopus?" And he's like, "No, it wasn't live." And then they're like, "So you made him eat an octopus?" And he's like, "Yeah." And they're like, "But did you feel bad for giving that to the actor?" And he's like, "No, I felt worse for the octopus
But yeah, I
than the
read that too.
actor."
Yeah. Well, it is kind of sucky being eaten alive, for sure.
Right? Right? I mean, but I just found that hilarious. This guy has a sense of humor, and this is actually the second film in his revenge trilogy, which is pretty interesting. I haven't seen the other two films in the trilogy, but if they're anywhere as good as this,
Yeah,
that's
I think that's the one that stands out. I
yeah.
think I think I started watching Lady Vengeance, but I don't think I finished it. So yeah, the Old Boy one is certainly the one that's I mean that's the one that's being remade. So it has it talks about the quality of the film if people want to remake it, not the other two.
Well, it became this huge cult following in the like early 2000s. I remember hearing about this in film school right when I got in, and that was like the first thing that they started talking about was like, "Oh my god, you got to watch this revenge movie," because I was into like the extreme movies like Audition and
Yeah. Oh, I
what
love Audition too. It's a great film.
right and Irreversible and those type of movies that kind of take you to the edge of
Yeah.
what we can do and watch for that matter.
Yeah. Oh, Irreversible is messed up. Yeah. Did you
Yeah,
talk about that in the past?
yeah, right. But that's another revenge movie that just it
Yeah.
takes you there and it makes you feel these emotions that you're like, whoa, I didn't know I had that in me.
Yeah.
But yeah, like this movie, it really takes you there and it really pushes your boundaries as a person when you're watching it. And the the original sequences that they did, this director, he chose them in a specific way to make you feel those emotions and actually drag out the sense of dread, this sense of compassion for this character that's literally he's a prick. I mean,
Yeah.
in the beginning sequences, he's cheating on his wife. He doesn't give a shit about his daughter. He doesn't care about any of the family members. He's just a prick. And
Yeah.
then they imprison him, and you're like, oh, great. That's awesome. They actually, he's getting what he deserves. And then halfway through the movie, your mind changes, which is so cool because
But,
you actually feel sympathy for him.
I mean, 15 years is a long time.
Yeah, and a little excessive in the punishment. A little
Yeah.
excessive. But I
Yeah.
mean, I appreciate movies like A Clockwork Orange where it kind of makes you feel sympathy for a character that is not supposed to be feel sympathy for.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this does that. It messes with your mind in such a way, and that's a lot of a testament, honestly, to the what do you call it? The music, the cinematography in this film.
Yeah.
That scene with the hammer.
Yeah. Well, when he extracts the tooth,
Yeah.
and they don't even show it. It's just
Yeah.
the blood starts flowing. We don't see that the tooth is being ripped out. It's just a little thing that it's as well a smart choice to start it a little bit and then let it to the imagination of the audience, to finish that picture mentally.
Yeah. Which is sometimes worse
Yeah.
because we imagine something way worse, and then you can never live up to the hype of what your imagination can create
Yeah,
in certain
exactly.
things like that. That's why movies like Jaws work, and movies that don't show the monster, but
Yeah.
you feel the horror and dread that the monster is actually creating, which is super interesting. And yeah, that totally does that. I completely forgot about the tooth scene until you brought it up now. But the fight sequence with the hammer, actually, it took 17 takes to do that,
Yeah, yeah.
and it
Oh,
took 3 days to film that thing. That's nuts.
I was reading as well. It is based actually on a manga, the whole
Yes.
thing, on a comic,
Yeah.
which I haven't seen as well. Do you know about that?
Yeah. I actually like one of those special editions that came out in like the early 2000s. It comes with the manga, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. So I actually read it, and this was around the same time as Sin City and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So they started releasing all those mangas and all that stuff together. And I actually read it, which I don't read mangas often. It was
Uh-huh.
actually pretty close and pretty spot on to the way it was filmed, the Korean version, that is.
Yeah. As well, it's so well as well the fight scenes in the end where this blonde little short jujutsu guy, and
Yeah.
he's being thrown against the freaking window of the building and bounces off of it. I wonder how they filmed that, like so realistic, and so he's just being thrown around against the freaking window.
Yeah, right. I mean, I was reading on there as well on IMDb that there's only about 4 scenes that have any CG elements in them, and one of them is actually the
The
knife in the
ants.
back.
Oh yeah, I read that too. Yeah.
That knife in the back, the ants, and there's 2 scenes that I don't think they specified which other scenes they were, but that's incredible because a lot of these shots you're like, how did they do that?
Yeah.
And
I
it
guess
goes
it's
back to the ingenuity of the cinematography and the what do you call it, oh my god, the actual fight sequences, the choreographing of the
the
fight
choreography.
sequences.
Yeah. As well, that when she is in the subway and the big ant is sitting close by, I guess that's CGI too. But
That
when
actually looks practical. That didn't look CG to me.
oh, I think it was, yeah.
You think so?
As well, the arm scene where the ants come out of his arm, the whole arm
Oh
was
yeah,
CGI.
yeah,
And it was well made. I'm all for it if the CGI convinces me and it doesn't scream CGI, which a lot of films do these days. It just looks like a freaking video game, and I hate that. If it's well made and it's implemented to the story, and I don't really notice it, I'm fine with CGI, But often they don't, and it
yeah.
just looks like crap.
I love my George Romero movies. Tom Savini era makeup effects and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But there's only so much that you could do with that, and how far you could take it.
yeah.
Where you can't go into certain things like the ants coming out of the arm. I think that would be a little bit
Well, we
hard
could
to
have done practical. I mean, they even CGI the blood these days.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's just some of those things that you can't really replicate. The realness, the nastiness of real splattering blood. It just looks too clean, too perfect.
Yeah.
I think it's best always if they combine practical with computer generated stuff. If it's done well, it's fine.
Agreed. Agreed 100%.
Out of laziness or the production wants just to use CGI or whatever, it's it's a lot of times it's crap.
I think it's a lack of ingenuity on the part of the filmmakers that they don't want to go down that route. They don't want to. The studio can't pay for that extra hand. They can't pay for those extra effects because if they go wrong, it's so costly to go in and fix it again and shoot again and all that stuff. So they just go, screw it. I'll just put a computer generated image in there, and the animator's not going to screw it up. They got one take on it.
Yeah. Well, a lot of things can go wrong when you do blood stuff, but
Oh, but it's so great when you do. Like,
yeah,
there's so
exactly.
many awesome outtakes and like Creep Show and all that stuff where the blood literally squirts in the guy's eye, and he's squinting his eye for the rest of the scene.
Yeah. I mean, on my part, having done horror films, I mean, just to splat blood in a certain direction and aim correctly and get it there where it's supposed to be, it's not that easy.
It's not. Yeah.
Yeah.
And getting it done in the right, like the right PSIs and all that stuff to actually launch it the right way and not make it look like completely fake and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's
And especially with fake heads, let's say you have an exploding head and you have just one, and that has to, if it's messed up, then you have to make a new head basically. So there's a lot of pressure on that, and hopefully it works. But
I admire you guys that you're the special effects teams and all that stuff, the practical effects teams that do all that. Because honestly, that is like a skill I do not have the patience for.
yeah, it is. I mean, a lot of time is spent in preparation, and then you go on set, and then hopefully it works.
It lasts 2 minutes.
and sometimes you can do it twice. We can fix some stuff, sometimes not.
Yeah.
Like I did this scene where the guy gets shot in the head in the Millennium Bug, and his face is kind of exploding. Yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
it was all done with compressed air, and there was really just one take. And if it works, fine. If not, I had to redo the head. So it's a lot of tension on that day to make that thing work.
I can imagine.
It's
Yeah.
very stressful. Yeah.
Like that sequence with the tooth and everything. I can imagine how they did that and how nerve-wracking that must have been, getting that just right. And also the choreography in that fight sequence, and I'm gonna keep going back to that because
Yeah.
that is nuts, and it's truly something that I could only imagine. Getting all those things right in 17 takes is amazing on itself. And
Well, it took 3 days.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, that's not bad considering that was all one take. It was all shot in one single take.
Yeah. How this is all choreographed and all in the right moment.
Yeah.
That's
There was what, like, I think there was 6 or 7 splatter sequences in there. There was about 25 people. I mean, that's a lot of choreography.
it's a lot of people. Yeah.
And then a lot of little things that had to go just right to get it done, because if not,
And
it's right from the beginning.
another thing, it looked good. It looked realistic, because often you see those fight scenes and they look like choreographed, like a ballet kind of thing, like it's kung fu movies. But it had a sense of reality to it, the way they shot it. And, it didn't look like fake, like it's a choreographed thing.
Yeah, I just love the sequence. And again, it goes back to what you were saying 100%, is that it actually looks real. The people that he's punching in the face, they're not just falling down and like staying down. They're coming back up all droggy and all like, yeah, I could do this. I could do that. No, I can't do this, and fall back down. But they're actually trying to get back up, which is what somebody would do if they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
They're going to be out of it, but they're not going to be dead.
Yeah, and later they come back with still with walking cane and stuff. And
Yeah.
When they attack his girlfriend in the, I don't know if you noticed.
Yeah. Yeah, with the bandages and all
Yeah,
that
they're
stuff.
still injured from the other fight, and they come back.
And then also the main character, I mean, he goes through hell. He really gets beat the hell up and like stabbed and everything. So this guy, he doesn't go unscathed fighting hand
Yeah,
to hand from this thing. He's limping the rest of the movie, and he's actually suffering from these attacks. And you could tell he's really getting the shit beat out of him.
yeah.
And I honestly thought that was a good testament to the movie. How about what's your favorite scene overall? 100% out of the original one, that is.
Well, of course, the ending is the big reveal. That's amazing. And I like as well when they reveal what happened to his sister with that scene on the bridge, which is almost like poetic with that music. And in Spike Lee is kind of more obscene, you know.
Yeah.
It's not pretty, you know.
Yeah.
But that's why I say this. The original has this certain elegance to it with the music, and it's just beautiful. Even though it's very disturbing and violent, but it's so beautifully shot, and with the music, it's just pretty to watch, you know.
I agree 100%. Honestly, favorite scene for me will have to be, besides the hammer scene, which we've already gone into that a million times. There's another sequence that when he's on the rooftop and he's holding one of the thugs by the tie over the what do you call it, the top of the building, and he's holding him out like that, and that music swell and everything. That scene is just so awesome.
Well, that's how the film starts. It's a great way to start the film, you know.
Yeah.
Like holding him on his thing there and over the almost falling. And then later he jumps actually from the building. So it was funny too. When he walks off and then you hear him crashing down.
Yeah.
Back down. It was like great black humor as well.
Yeah. Oh, this movie's full of some really dark humor. Honestly, recommendation for this movie, if you're into revenge movies and very, very dark, twisted revenge movies to the style of Pulp Fiction, to the style of Mandy, to the style of Irreversible, this is a movie that you'd want to watch. And if you haven't watched this already, what the hell are you doing? Watch this thing. It's on Netflix. It's easy access for everybody. You got to check this thing out. And overall, I give this movie a 9 out of 10. I don't know if you have like a rating system set up, Robert.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. Awesome, man. So yeah, thank you so much, Robert, for joining us on this episode and everything. We'll be what do you call it? Talking more, and hopefully we'll be able to do another movie as well that we could bring onto the show.
Yes, please. Other disturbing films.
Yeah.
Have you done the Irreversible talk yet?
Yeah. We've done, actually, no, we haven't done a podcast version of it yet.
We could do that. I'll be up for that. It's
really
messed up, yeah.
So
there's a lot of amazing special effects on that.
Oh, yeah. If you don't know what Irreversible is, it's Gaspar Noé. He did Love. He did. There's a whole bunch of movies that he's done, but this is like experimental filmmaking to the extreme. And
it's extreme, yeah.
Irreversible is a French revenge film, and yeah, that's definitely something we're going to be talking, and we'll bring another episode to you with Robert on board. So thank you again, Robert, for joining us on this episode.
You're welcome.
And again, if you haven't checked us out before, this is the first episode you're listening to. Check us out on www.manbitesfilm.com, and we are actually available on any podcast streaming network whatsoever. Any app that you could find that's on podcast, you'll find us on there. So check us out again, and check out all our content. We post 3 different episodes every week, and subscribe to the channel, of course.
All right.